Okay, we're live. Welcome everyone to the planning board meeting of the town of Colonie. For the record, today is Tuesday, March 9th, 2021, and it's 6:00 PM. And I think the sun is still shining. And I understand we're changing the clocks. Somebody told me, and is it this weekend?
Yes.
So we'll get even more daylight. So spring is coming. First item on the agenda, the meeting is called to order. For the record, I'm Peter Sudo. I'm present rather, and I'm also pleasant. I'll call the roll. Lou?
Here.
Chief Hyder?
Here.
Paul?
Here.
Susan?
She's muted.
I see her. Sean will say for the record that Susan's here.
She's
and
here. Just
needs to unmute. Craig Shamlian?
Here.
Okay.
Here.
Susan's here. Hi, Susan. For anyone who's,
So am I, Peter. So am I.
well, I said Chip. Yeah. Oh, you didn't answer either. Okay. Hi, Chip. Did you hear me call your name?
No.
Okay. I think I did. Just so anyone who's tuning in for item B, which is 1005 Troy Schenectady Road, that's going to be tabled tonight to be considered at a future date. Which means item C, West Albany Drive, may be called up relatively early in the meeting. The next item on the agenda right now is report of the Planning and Economic Development Director, and that's Sean McGuire.
Thank you, Peter. Nothing great news to report here. You know, we're still working this remote meeting format in response to COVID, but as vaccines are distributed and people are
Okay. Which means item C, West Albany Drive, may be called up relatively early in the meeting.
A little echo there. So we'll continue to meet remotely until conditions are such that we can all gather again safely. Tonight, there are no hearings on the agenda, so while public's invited, I don't believe we have anybody that has signed up to speak. So I think those will be most of our applicants speaking.
Okay, first item in the order of regular business is 16 Plaza Drive, Century Hill Plaza. Request for a one-year extension to site plan approval for construction of a commercial office park. The site is zoned commercial office. Does the department have any introductory remarks to this item?
I don't. Do you, Zach?
Yeah, the only thing I'm going to say is they already received final planning board back on January 22nd of 2019. So their 2-year approval expired on the 22nd of this year. So Chris is here, and I think he's just going to ask for the extension and go from there. That's all I got.
Okay. Chris Betty, are you?
You're
Can we
muted.
hear you? You're muted. You're muted, Chris.
Unmute. Hi there.
We can hear you.
Thank you. Again, my name's Chris Betty. I'm with First Columbia, developers of Century Hill Plaza. Most of you guys have seen us over the years. We've been here for 20 years developing at this location. In 2019 now, you know, I didn't realize the approval ran out. We were going by the map stamp date, which I thought was the official date. In 2019, we had the 18-acre land around the Angiodynamics reapproved. Since then, we've completed the Empire Health Building, which is part of that site plan approval. We are, you know, as most of you know, we do multi-building approvals. So, you know, it kind of is difficult for us in some of the timeframes to produce the buildings, lease the buildings, do all that in the time frame. The COVID-19 issue basically was a pause for a year. We've essentially lost a year of marketing as businesses weren't expanding or relocating or actually working, so are working from home. So I mean, we've had a little bit of a slowdown. Activity is picking up. Leasing is picking up. So, you know, we're anxious to kick off our last site at Century Hill Plaza, 16 Plaza Drive. And I think we'll get it going in the next year or so.
Okay, any comments from the department?
Nope.
You're in agreement. You're in agreement. Yeah. Any comments or questions from the board members? Okay, we have an application for a 1-year extension to the site plan approval. Do we have a motion?
Make a motion.
That would be
Second.
Lou. Chip, did you second it?
Yes.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. The ayes have it unanimously. Thank you. As I said in the beginning of the meeting, item B under regular business 1005 Troy Schenectady Road has been adjourned until a future date. So we are going on to item C, which is 1 West Albany Drive, storage shed and gravel area application. Sketch plan review for construction of a 3,182 square foot storage shed and expansion of gravel area. The site is zoned industrial, and we'll ask for an introduction from the department on that project.
Thanks, Peter. I'll start out here, then I'll ask Zach if he has any other comments to add here. But, as the board's well aware, you've been very concerned about flooding in the West Albany neighborhood and asked us to continue to monitor the situations out there. We did determine that there was some work done here at 1 West Albany Drive that was not put through our normal review process. We notified the property owner, who then brought Dan Hirschberg in to prepare a plan to address that. And so we're going to take a first look at the sketch plan review for that plan, which is a gravel pavement and storage building for Rio Welding at 1 West Albany Drive. Zach, anything to add there?
No, not right now. I mean, DCC was held back in February, and all the town departments were there. And obviously, the biggest concern that the biggest department that had concern was stormwater. So that's all I've got. I would let Dan go into his presentation and kind of explain what he's looking to do there.
Hey, Dan Hirschberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Pleasure to be with you again. We were brought on board about 2 months ago to take a look at the site. It was after a letter was written by Sean McGuire to the owner, Bob Rio, telling him that he has to go through a site plan approval process. He had a building permit from the town to do some internal work, and at the same time, he had a gravel pavement put on and a storage structure built. These facilities are meant for when he has a big piece of steel to bring out, he has to put it down, load it on the trucks and get it out, and it just requires outdoor space. And he also has stuff he has to store in weatherproof conditions. That's why he built the shed.
Okay, I'm going to interrupt you for 1 second. Could we get a sketch plan of this project up on the computer?
Okay, yeah. What I'm going to start with is, this is the existing conditions before the recent work was done. And what this shows is the warehouse building, a 1-story office building at the front, some parking spaces in front of that, and circumnavigated by a truck maneuvering area. And then there's a isolated wetland. That's a shaded area off to the right-hand side of the property. And that's the way it existed prior to the recent work that was done on the site. If you go to the next one, these are photos of how it looked in 2011. You can see the photo on the left is an aerial photo that looks a lot like the plan that we had shown before. The foliage on the left is actually part of the portion that is part of the isolated wetland. It was an emergent wetland, but it was isolated, so there were a significant amount of tree growth in that. The street view on the right shows what it looked like then. This is from Booth Lane and West Albany Drive. Next. These are the photos, the way it looked in December when I got involved with the project. The building on the left shows the 1-story office building. You can see the short building on the right-hand side. The other building is the view of the warehouse building. That's a taller building, still 1-story, but a taller building. And through the fence, you can see the storage structure at the back and the gravel areas to the left of the pavement. These are the recent site photos. Next. Now, this is the plan, the way it is today. with the gravel area. The rectangular yellow covered building is a storage building that was built. And this plan has been modified. On this one, we show a stormwater basin for storage. And let me just go briefly to explain what happens here with regard to stormwater. Stormwater was a major issue that was raised with this site and had been raised for a while. There's a natural drainage course that runs from the corner of Booth Lane and West Albany Drive down towards Rensselaer Avenue and goes into the rear yards of some building on Rensselaer Avenue, goes into some catch basin, goes out to Sand Creek Road. And at that point, there's significant flooding that occurs quite often, sometimes multiple times a year, and water builds up behind those buildings as flood garages and floods some of the buildings there. And there's been concern also because that drainage also carried a lot of debris, from debris and silt from sites up above. When we took a look at the site, there had been previously a stormwater basin that was about where the new shed is. It was a small basin that was done for storage, and it discharged out to a pipe. And that pipe shows a 24-inch pipe that discharges into the stream course or into the drainage swale just beyond the intersection of Booth Lane and West Albany Drive. That over the years had gotten filled in and was no longer functional. So not only was it carrying the drainage from the site, but the storage was not taking place. In addition, some work was taking place to the east of the site, to the southeast of the site. A project that's higher than the site did some work, and discharges were taking place onto this particular site that weren't accounted for in the design of the previous stormwater system. So what we did here is we took a look at it and we determined that we wanted to turn it back to its original condition, the way it was prior to this work, and take all that drainage from the site, all the drainage that's coming on from the site that's south and east of it, and trap that and store it and retain it so that the amount of drainage will be significantly reduced from all storms up between a 1-year and a 100-year storm. We're treating it like a redevelopment site with an increased impervious area. So therefore we had to treat the outfall. So we put on a hydrodynamic separator over the pipe that treats the stormwater before it discharges it to the same pipe. So that's the proposed site plan. If you go to the next slide, this is from the GIS image, and you can't see it very well, but it shows the site, it shows the intersection, and down below there are a number of catch basins behind garages and buildings that drain out to Sand Creek Road, and the intersection of Sand Creek Road and then Rensselaer Road all come together at that point, and there's been significant drainage problems for a number of years. Well, there were drainage problems there that even existed prior to the development of the site. This building was built for American Steel. We did the original plan back in, I think, 1992 or 1989, when American Steel operated first there. And since that time, Rio Welding has purchased it and operates the Rio Steel operation from it. Next. So what this shows is what happens. When I say pre, that's pre any of the new additions on there. That's from it would have existed, the drainage that came off it when this plan was amended in 19 or maybe early 2000, it discharged at 4.49 CFS. Our post would be 4.19 CFS. The amount going down there now is significantly more than a 4.49 CFS because the plan that was in place on the pre is non-functional. So again, there was an interim in there where the 1-year frequency is probably discharging something in a range of 8 to 10 CFS. We're bringing it all the way back to 4.19 CFS by the treatment that we're doing there. 10-year frequency, we're discharging also, and 100-year frequency, we're reducing significantly. And this is done through the use of that basin. And we also have a dry swale, which diverts some of the drainage that comes off the hill from the other parcel. And there's also stormwater that comes out of the side of the slope. The groundwater surfaces in that side slope, and it all goes down to that isolated wetland, which acts to attenuate an awful lot of the storms. And I think the last slide is next. And this shows the hydrodynamic separator. So with the new storage basin can store 185,000 gallons of stormwater at the 100-year storm and releases it over a period of 4 hours. So it discharges it over a significant period of time. All discharges from the system will run through the hydrodynamic separator, which is shown on the left, to remove both floatables and settable solids from the discharge. That should significantly improve the quality of the stormwater that runs through that swale down to the back of the garages on Van Rensselaer. Prepared to answer any questions that the board may have.
Yes, this is being reviewed by our town designated engineer, in this case, Martin and LaJudas. And we have Chuck Voss here. Chuck, could you give us your comments before the board considers this item?
Sure, Peter. As the board knows, this is in for sketch review, so less than a formal review certainly has taken place at this point simply because of the status of the project. But we did attend the DCC meeting, and I did have our stormwater engineering specialist take a look at this just quickly, Brad Grant, who you guys know. And certainly the big issue, as you know, both Sean and Zach mentioned at the beginning of this, is going to be stormwater. You know, our primary concern is just how this site is going to behave in terms of moving things. Hold on one second. Sorry, dogs. And, you know, it's a concern given the existing flooding that's occurring downstream. So, you know, we haven't analyzed Dan's plans in any detail yet, simply because it's still a little too premature, but it appears that his initial design concepts will A, address the on-site issues, and B, potentially address the downsite or downflow issues, at least helping to mitigate them from the current situation. You know, we obviously haven't looked at any of the pond details yet, or the swale details, or certainly the interconnect details. Brad did take a look at the hydrodynamic separator and felt that, you know, certainly that would be a positive piece of infrastructure to locate on the site. But we just wanted to make sure that there wouldn't be any surcharging over the top of that facility, you know, in an extreme event. So we're going to want to pay attention, obviously, to, you know, how Dan really lays out the design of that system, and, you know, potentially with the interconnects. We also certainly concur with the fact that the existing system was probably never maintained very well, with the existing 24-inch connector pipe that ran through the site, which we think certainly exacerbated the the downflow issues. But yeah, stormwater is the biggest issue here for us with this project. Access appears to be fine. You know, the project, we both visited the site. The project certainly, you know, is accessible. You know, from a traffic standpoint, we don't see that as an issue. They've been operating in and out of the site for a number of years. So it's really just going to be the stormwater.
Okay, we'll go through board comments. I know Paul understands the stormwater down in West Albany. Paul, would you like to give us your comments or questions?
Not at this time, Peter. I want to spend more time, physically spend more time over there. I would like to visit the site with Chuck or Brad at some point soon. This is kind of hard I mean, I pretty much know this area. I visit it constantly, but I think I would like to visit this with the TDE or a representative and or somebody from Dan's office. Doesn't matter. I just want to do it on site, take another look at it.
Okay, thank you. Susan? I'm not sure if she's muted. We'll come back to Susan. Chip?
I don't have any comment right now.
Craig?
I guess I just want to clarify in my mind. So the storage shed was built without permit. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and so as part of this, we're bringing that shed into compliance? Is that kind of what we're doing in addition to other things, but that's part of what we're doing, correct?
Yes, and the zoning verification form sent us to get a variance since it's a continuation of a non-conforming pre-existing use. So we're in front of the zoning board of appeals for the 14th.
Okay, all right, that's it. I just wanted to clarify. In my head
Okay.
where we're going. Thank you.
Good question. Chief Hyder?
Yeah, just two things. The drawing shows as a storage tent. And I think it showed that. Is that going to become a permanent structure, or is it going to be the temporary thing that it is now?
No, that's the structure he wants. It is a tent fabric storage structure. You're correct.
The only other comment I have is I'm assuming they took down a lot of trees and vegetation to create this parking area. Is that correct?
To do what they did now, there wasn't a significant amount of trees. There were some trees taken down to expand that parking, but the tree line, if you take a look at that map, was about halfway across that gravel area.
Sean, can you pull up that picture, the aerial map?
Yeah,
The aerial
that's
picture.
about where the tree line was.
I mean, that, my guess is that a significant amount of those trees are gone, correct?
Yep, there are. There were trees in there. Yep.
You know, because, I mean, do we do anything about the trees? Do we, obviously, you're not going to do a lot of landscaping around the building. I'm just curious as to what we have to say about taking down that much of a tree line. That's it.
Yeah. I tried on a new design to avoid doing that. I tried to stick to areas that are basically clear, but to make that basin, we also have to take down a few more trees, but significantly less than was taken down to build the gravel area.
Okay, Chief Hyder raises an important issue. Does the department or Chuck have any reaction to that comment about the trees?
Yeah, I think, looking at where we've had issues before where trees have been cleared prior to the board's review and certainly in the approval of it, we have required some form of mitigation against that. I would certainly be in favor of some form of mitigation here, whether it's on-site or off-site. I think we could determine that. But I think it's rather appropriate considering the challenges we have in this area.
Can we get a current aerial? With drones nowadays, is that too much to ask? I'd like to see the two pictures side by side of what's there now and what was there 10 years ago.
Yeah, we could try to fly that. I think if you give me a minute or so, I believe I had a time lapse of this area. I'm just trying to find the file where I created that ad hoc recently, but I can get a current aerial.
Yeah,
Okay,
so
that's a live issue. You think you can get it right away, Zach?
I just pulled up a 3D image off Google Earth, which still shows the existing piece. If you want me to pull that up, Sean.
Sure. Stop my share.
See what I can do.
I think Google still has the 2011 version.
Yeah, I think so. This is the 3D image that I have of where it is. So I'm assuming that this piece right here, you guys can see my cursor, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's about what was taken down.
This is what's taken down. So
Yeah, the bulk of those trees are almost gone now up to the edge of the wetland.
yeah, so this piece, I think you can almost see the wetland here.
No, actually, the wetland is
Farther in?
Yeah, a portion of the tree line is in the wetland.
Yeah.
Okay.
But again, there were definitely trees taken down, the quantity of them. If nobody has a drone capability, my office could drone it. Quite honestly, got to be concerned with the airport and even that distance away.
Yeah, I think we're fine.
So
Okay, let's stay with that issue then. Lou, did you have comments or questions?
Dan, are you going to cover the gravel area with asphalt, or are you going to leave it gravel?
The intention is to leave it gravel. It functions quite well. It's only used when he's got a big piece of steel to put out there and they have to load him on the truck. So he thinks the gravel works fine. I don't know whether, from a stormwater standpoint, it doesn't make much difference. The gravel, once compacted, is just as impervious as asphalt. So it'll just be an operational thing about whether or not Bob Rio wants to pave it.
Is that ground conducive to impervious?
The ground actually had pretty good infiltration, but the problem was the shallow to groundwater situation doesn't allow to use any infiltration methods. To build that basin, we have to put a heavy liner at the bottom of it and some soil over the top of it to hold it down to keep the groundwater out of it, to have the storage capability in there. So that's one issue that we had to address with the groundwater.
Yeah, Dan, and I would think if he's loading large steel, he's obviously need large vehicles, large trucks, which, porous pavement isn't really the best solution for that.
Yeah, and it wouldn't really work here well anyway, because the ground underneath it is too close to the groundwater. DEC doesn't allow to use it for a stormwater management control in high groundwater places. So it would strictly be we could use it for a collection system. But what we do, we have a pretty good grade across that gravel, collecting it in, and everything else is connected from the 24-inch pipe. So,
Yeah, I like the gravel the way it is because it looks good. It's done very well.
Okay.
That's it, Pete.
Susan, did you have comments or questions?
No, I don't have anything to add.
Okay, I just have a couple educational type questions. The hydrodynamic separator, what is the expected life in that, and is there maintenance involved?
The maintenance on the hydrodynamic separator is a once annual cleaning. Actually, the people that make it, Hydro International, recommend that the first year you take a 6 month to make certain it hasn't built up enough material. And then with the normal amount of buildup, once a year, somebody has to come in and they have a special device that goes around. There's a cone in there. It's a swirl concentrator is what it is. They send a device down there and they clean out all the debris inside. So it's a once a year maintenance issue to get a large vacuum truck in there with the proper device on it. And the lifetime of these things, again, they've been around for probably 30 or 35 years. There was the first demonstrated one here about 35 years ago, the first one I ever saw. So I've had, the longest one I have in place is now about 18 or 19 years, and it's still in good condition. The internal pieces are made out of stainless steel, so they have a pretty good lifetime.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions by anybody?
Can we go back to that then, Dan? Who, is that a yearly thing that is under contract?
Yeah, there are 2 or 3 people in the area that have the equipment. So they make a contract with someone to come out once a year and clean it. Also in the town of Colonie, as you know, there has to be an annual stormwater report filed by the applicant with the department. And when we do those inspections, we ask for a copy of the receipt from the people that cleaned it, and on the receipt, we want them to put the amount of cubic yards worth of material they took out. So that's the way of managing to be certain that it's cleaned.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions or comments from anybody? Sean, is there any further business from the department tonight?
No, that's it. Just these 2 cases with the third being removed.
Okay, if there are no objections, we shall stand adjourned and everybody stay healthy. Thank you.